Alright guys, welcome to this video. This is Zach99. Here I'm presenting a NFC wild card picture and basically the Cowboys playoff scenarios because I'm a Cowboys fan, have been for my entire life. As we head into the last final week, week 18 of the 2022 NFL season. So here guys, we see all the teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs crossed out. And then as you see here, I've highlighted all the teams that have clinched a playoff berth, highlighted in blue. And then the three teams highlighted in yellow are the three teams looking to get in that seventh seed. That's the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers, and the Seattle Seahawks, all with 8-8 records. So that's a pretty interesting scenario, and we're going to cover that because it is potentially a team the Cowboys could face in the wild card weekend. But right now, guys, let's go ahead and talk about our Dallas Cowboys, or my Dallas Cowboys. For a long time, the Cowboys, since they've clinched the playoff spot, they've been locked into the number 5 seed, where they currently stand right now. If the season were to end today, the Cowboys would be the number 5 seed. And right here, even though they're 12-4, guys, they would end up traveling to face Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers. The reason for that, even though they have a lot better record, the reason they would have to go to Tampa Bay is because the Cowboys have not clinched their division. That is currently owned by the Eagles. So the Cowboys get in as a wild card. The Buccaneers have clinched their division, even though they have a lot, less record. They would still clinch their division. So they are not a wild card. That's why they would host the Cowboys. So that is where the Cowboys currently stand. Now, for the Cowboys to clinch either a number 1 or a number 2 seed, which is the only possibilities for the Cowboys besides that number 5 that they currently have, that's the only two other possibilities for the Cowboys going into Week 18. Now, for the Cowboys to get this number 1 seed, they would have to defeat the Washington Commanders in Week 18, and the Eagles are going to have to lose to the Giants, which I don't really see happening right now. The Eagles are a 14-point favorite in that game. Now, only that, the Cowboys have to win, the Eagles would have to lose to the Giants, which I don't see happening right there, but the 49ers would also have to lose, and they are facing the Cardinals, I believe. So, yeah, the Cardinals is who they're facing. So, the 49ers are about a 2-touchdown favorite in that game as well in Week 18. So, guys, I would say the chances of all that happening, especially the 49ers losing to the Cardinals and the Eagles losing to the Giants, I would say that's probably maybe a 2% chance at best of that happening. So, not very likely. That's just my guess. Now, it is possible for the 49ers to get that number 1 seed as well, just if you're interested. They would need to defeat the Arizona Cardinals this weekend, very likely. And the Eagles would have to lose to the Giants. Could that happen? That's a lot more likely, but I would put that maybe at about a 10% chance, something like that, because I can see, especially after the Eagles lost to the Saints yesterday, if the Eagles have to face Gardner Minshew, or have to play Gardner Minshew in that game, or if Jalen Hurts ends up playing and is still hurt and can't throw because of his sprained throwing shoulder, as I heard happened to him a couple weeks ago, then it is possible that the Giants could be the Eagles. The thing is the Giants really have nothing to play for except momentum. They're already in the playoffs. They clinched that yesterday with a very impressive win, probably their most impressive win of the entire season, when they faced, I believe it was the Colts. I think it was like 37 to 16 or something like that. It was a big time win for the Giants. Very impressive. Now, the most likely scenario, though, guys, is the Eagles are going to keep their number 1 spot that they currently hold. And all they have to do to keep that is defeat the Giants. And if they lose to the Giants and the 49ers and the Cowboys also both lose, they would still get that number 1 spot. But all they have to do is beat the Giants and they keep that number 1 seed. And I think that's pretty likely. So, yeah, about, what do we have here? 10% chance of that happening, 2% chance of that happening. So let's say an 88% chance of the Eagles keeping that number 1 spot and getting that first round bye. So whoever gets this number 1 spot is going to get that first weekend bye. The wild card weekend, we're going to go ahead and put wild card bye for that number 1 seed. Now, the Cowboys could get a number 2 seed there's 4 teams that could get this number 2 seed depending on what happens in week 18. Now, the Eagles are probably the most likely to get the number 2 seed if everything happens right. Now, if they lose to the Giants, San Francisco wins, and the Cowboys lose, that would be the Eagles getting that number 2 seed. If the 49ers were to, and the Eagles were to both win, that's probably pretty likely, then the 49ers would get that 2nd seed. Or if the Eagles, and the Vikings all lose, regardless of what the Cowboys do, that's not very likely, but this one here is pretty likely. The 49ers winning against the Cardinals and the Eagles winning against the Giants, 49ers would take the number 2 seed. That is probably what's going to happen. That's the most likely, to be honest. This actually should be up at the top because that's the most likely scenario that's going to happen is the 49ers are going to get this number 2 seed. The Vikings could also get the number 2 seed if they defeat the Bears and the 49ers lose. Not real likely. Maybe a 10-15% chance of something like that happening. Not real likely, though. And the Cowboys could get that number 2 seed if they defeat Washington. They take care of business. And the Eagles lose, which could happen, and the 49ers win. I could see the 49ers winning. I could definitely see the Cowboys beating the Commanders and the Eagles losing. This maybe has like about a 20% chance of happening. Something like that. I don't know. That's a little more likely than the Cowboys getting the number 1 seed for sure. So this is probably the second most likely thing to happen, but it's not real high chance. So more than likely the 49ers are going to win that number 2 seed. Just based on the odds of the probabilities of everything going this way. Now, the number 3 seed, the Cowboys cannot get. In fact, nobody in the NFC East can, the Giants, Cowboys, or Eagles can't get this number 3 seed. It's either going to be the 49ers or it's going to be the Vikings. One of these 12-4 teams are going to get this number 3 seed, or could get this number 3 seed. So either one of these teams is going to be number 3. The 49ers are going to get the number 3 seed. If they happen to lose to the Cardinals and the Vikings win, the Vikings are facing the Bears, and the Vikings would get that number 3 seed simply if they lose to the Bears. So probably, who knows what's going to happen here, but that is where the number 3 seeding goes. More likely that the Vikings are going to get that if they lose, or if the 49ers, if they lose and the Vikings win, right? So the number 4 seed, guys, is locked in to the Buccaneers. So doesn't matter what they do in Week 18, they are going to be locked in to the number 4 seed. But what happens with other teams determines on who they're going to face. Now, more than likely, they are going to face the Cowboys, as we've already talked about. Probably about a 95% chance they're going to face the Cowboys. And let's be honest, the Buccaneers are probably kind of hoping they face the Buccaneers over the Eagles. Just because the Cowboys, I think Tom Brady and the Buccaneers feel like they kind of have the Cowboys number. They beat them the last 2 times they played them, both this last season in Week 1 and last year in Week 1. And, I just feel like they probably feel like they have the Cowboys number and can beat them easier than facing the really hot Eagles, especially if Jalen Hurts is playing in the playoffs, as I expect he will. So for the Buccaneers to face the Cowboys, the Eagles defeat the Giants, regardless of what happens in the Cowboys game, Cowboys are going to face the Bucs, period. Now, the Cowboys would not face the Buccaneers, and instead it would be the Eagles in the wild card weekend going to face the Buccaneers if the Eagles lose to the Giants in Week 18 and the Cowboys take care of business against the Commanders. If both of those things happen, both of them have to happen, and then the Buccaneers would instead host the Eagles in the wild card weekend. Like I said, this is why I say it's about a 95% chance the Buccaneers are going to be the team the Cowboys end up traveling to in the wild card weekend. Now, the number 6 seed is locked in by the Giants. Again, impressive victory yesterday when the Giants took care of business and took that 6th spot for the wild card teams. And they will play on wild card weekend. It's just what other teams are going to determine where the Giants go, however. Now, the Giants will go and face the Vikings in the wild card weekend if the Vikings lose at the Bears or if the 49ers win. Now, if the 49ers win, again, that's probably pretty likely. Like I say, I expect the 49ers to win this weekend against the Cardinals. So that's probably going to mean that the Giants are going to go and face the 12-4 Vikings up in Minnesota during the wild card weekend. However, the Giants could go to San Francisco instead and face the 49ers. I think the 49ers would be a lot more dangerous team for the Giants to face. And that would happen if the 49ers lose to the Cardinals, and both of these have to happen. The Vikings would have to beat the Bears. And if that happens, the Giants would instead go out to face the 49ers in California. So I feel like this is probably going to be the most likely thing that's going to happen. The Giants are going to go visit the Vikings. And that's probably what they prefer anyway. I think if I was the Giants, I'd much rather face the Vikings, who I think a lot of people feel like the Vikings are kind of a fraudulent team. They haven't really beat a lot of good teams. I mean, the Cowboys beat the Vikings like 40-3 about 6 weeks ago or something like that. Yeah, the Cowboys destroyed them. The Vikings have been destroyed by the Eagles. Several teams, the Vikings just have not looked good at all. But they have won enough close games and beat enough, pretty bad teams to have a pretty good record. All right, guys. So the only other thing to talk about is a really interesting 7th seed. And kudos to the Packers for getting red hot when it counts. I know at one point the Packers were 4-8 4 weeks ago, and I think they had like a 1 or 2% chance of making the playoffs. Since then, the Packers have been on fire and won the last 4 games in a row, and now have a position where they control their own destiny on getting in the playoffs. All they have to do, they face the Lions this weekend. It is in Lambeau Field, and if they beat the Lions, they're in, regardless of what else happens. So Packers control their own destiny. They do not need any help at all. They beat the Lions, a division rival, in Lambeau Field this weekend. They are taking that 7th seed. Now the Seahawks and the Lions could both get that 7th seed, but they need help. So the Seahawks would actually need to win this weekend against the Rams. They are playing at home. So if they beat the Rams and the Packers were to lose to the Lions, it would be the Seahawks getting in that 7th seed. Detroit would actually need the Seahawks to lose, so that doesn't happen. And Detroit would also need to beat the Packers for that scenario. Again, the Packers to beat the Lions, it doesn't matter what the Seahawks do. Packers are getting in and getting that 7th seed. Lions need to beat the Packers and need the Seahawks to lose. And Seattle needs the Packers to lose, as well as they need to beat the Rams and get that 9-8 record. So that is an interesting situation for that 7th seed to make the playoffs. So hopefully this has kind of explained everything to you guys as far as what's going to happen and what, I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out here depending on what happens in the final week this weekend, week 18 of 2022. I would love to know what you guys think. If you're a Cowboys fan, would you guys rather the Cowboys face the Buccaneers and travel to Tampa Bay to face Tom Brady? Are you guys kind of hoping that the Cowboys get the number 2 seed instead? Would you rather the Cowboys go have a home game against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? Let's say if the Packers were to get that 7th seed, as I expect they will, would you rather see the Cowboys face the Packers at home, or would you rather see the Cowboys go to Tampa Bay and face Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and company? And I think both of those are very dangerous teams for the Cowboys to face in the wild card weekend. Obviously, we want the Cowboys, as a Cowboys fan, to get this bye week off, but I just don't see all this happening. I don't see the 49ers and the Eagles both losing against the Cardinals and against the Eagles in those games. I just don't see that happening. So even if the Cowboys beat the Commanders, we still have to have the Eagles lose to the Giants and the 49ers lose to the Cardinals. Don't see that happening. That's a very slim chance. Like I said, probably about a 2% chance of that happening. So what are you guys looking to see? It doesn't matter who your favorite team is. I would love to know what you guys are thinking. What games are you guys hoping to see? Are you guys hoping the Packers get in because you're an Aaron Rodgers fan? Are you guys hoping to see the Packers face the Cowboys in that wild card weekend? You guys looking forward to maybe the Cowboys progressing in the playoffs and facing the Eagles? Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts, which hasn't happened this year because the first game the Cowboys faced the Eagles, Dak Prescott was hurt, and it was Cooper Rush. And then the last game that happened a couple weeks ago, the Cowboys faced the Eagles, but Jalen Hurts was hurt, and so was Dak Prescott versus Gardner Minshew. So yeah, the Cowboys and the Eagles are 1-1 against each other in the regular season. That would be a hell of a game as well. So what games are you guys looking to see in the playoffs? I would love to know. Be sure you comment down below, guys. Be sure you like this video if it's helped you understand and make this a little more clear, even though this is quite a mess. I would love to know. This has been Zaxxer 99. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.